Hello. Gonna pause the record.
Huh, okay. Why am I not able to see this? Oh, interesting. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Okay. Well, sorry, y'all. Now, here I have the, okay. Can you all see my screen?
I only see a toolbar right now.
Yeah, toolbar. It looks like you're on Adobe or something.
Huh. Well, it should be sharing. Screen sharing is paused. Why are you paused? Don't pause. Do it.
It says Karen what?
I know. It's like, why won't it share? Your screen sharing is paused. I don't want it paused. I want it to do it. I wonder if, well, that's terrible.
Um,
Oh. You know what? There's a button that says share.
oh,
Yeah, it's at the bottom. As opposed to share at the top. You choose something and then you share at the bottom. Okay, and this is now all on the recording. Oh, I hate this one that starts this way.
We can edit this part out.
I know, but I'm finding that they don't do that. So, I mean,
I'll make sure that we edit this out.
thank you.
And actually, you know what I'll do? Let me pause it and restart it.
Perfect. Welcome everyone to the League of Women Voters Hot Topics for August 2024 and our kickoff for 2024 for Hot Topics. Just to remind everyone, I could stop sharing for a moment so that you can actually see me. And then what I will do is I will start up again in a moment. But I'm Karen Wickert, and with Melissa Hanson, we run the Hot Topics for the League of Women Voters in Nashville. And we will continue to have these talks every Friday at noon and via Zoom. So just for purposes of everyone knowing, putting it back on their calendar, that would be great. That would be a good thing to do. So now you've seen me. And let me go back to attempting to share my screen. You are screen sharing, it says, which is wonderful. So today our hot topic is going to be, we're going to start off with Jill Melton, who's the editor of Edible Nashville, which is an absolutely wonderful publication that we have here locally. But before I introduce Jill, let me tell you a little bit about what is on store for the next couple of months. So in September, again, reminding everyone it's the first Friday of each month at noon, we'll have Stephen Elliott and possibly one of his co-contributors to a report on key takeaways from the new Tennessee campaign finance reports. So they'll be talking about how in this past election cycle, where monies came from and how campaign finances went in Tennessee and in Middle Tennessee in particular. Stephen Elliott is at the Nashville Banner. And for those of you who are older folk who have been here for a while, the Nashville Banner was I guess the other paper for a long time, and it has been revived and is in collaboration with the Nashville scene. So our local newspaper scene is starting to get further expanded, which is great. We're very happy with that. I'm very happy. I'm assuming we're all very happy with that. We all like local journalism. Then in October, there was a request for Miss Dismal, there we go, information. Meaning, basically, there's an enormous amount of stuff going on out there we're not sure. How are we supposed to understand, believe, etc., stuff that's coming about all sorts of things, not just the election, but other pieces of information. Well, in October, we will have Emily Bush, and again with her collaborator, talk to us about ways of identifying and dealing with malinformation. By the way, that's the moniker that has been used. It's misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. And so I don't know exactly what they'll be presenting, but I just putting it under that chunk, and that's what they will be talking about. And it should be very interesting, and it will help us in that last month, basically, before as you know, the campaigns kind of rev up, and I suspect a fair amount of dis, and malinformation, as well as good information, because the League of Women Voters will be helping out with that, will be coming out. And then in November, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but our plans are to do something light, because it will be just before the November election. So I'm not sure what it will be, but we're going to have fun somehow or another. Maybe we will get together. I don't know. Needless to say, I don't want anything serious before that next week. And then in December, we'll have some sort of thing, which we often do, probably another information campaign of some sort. So with that, I would like to introduce Jill. So who is Jill? She might tell you, but I'm going to tell you first. Jill is the editor and the founder of Edible Nashville, and she's going to talk about the journey that she's been on with her magazine, and in particular the impact it's having on the local food community. I just want you to realize that I think you all know I have certain things that I do a lot of, and you guys have had to deal with a lot of it. Some of it's trash, some of it's local food, some of it's whatever. So Jill is one of my favorites, and her magazine is one of my best things about the local community here and the local food community. And it's not only, it's, by the way, absolutely the most beautiful thing, the great recipes. And it's just like, it's like opening it up and you get to look at these beautiful pieces. Like, I'll never make anything that looks that good. My food never looks like that. But man, it is great. And her recipes are fantastic. So I think she's going to tell us all about how it is that she does all that. And she's also going to tell us, since we do this by Zoom, how you can get Edible Nashville, including a subscription, which, by the way, I do. And I even put it on my coffee table, although no one uses my coffee table for a coffee table, but it's there. So I'm extremely excited about the fact that we have Jill today. And this is going to be just a whole lot of fun and just a great way of starting this year's Hot Topics. And it is a hot day, so it seems appropriate. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I believe Jill can take over on her own.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I can just chat like this before I share my screen, right?
Yeah, you can. That's what I did.
Okay, perfect. Oh my God. I wrote down so many comments on things that you said. Yay for newspapers. Yay. Yay for journalism in general. Oh my God, I could get on my horse about journalism. And before I forget, people will ask all the time how they can get an edible or how we can feature them or blah, blah, blah. And I frequently give them a little tutorial on what a real magazine is, which is just like a newspaper. It's a publication that has a mission, a voice, and an opinion to the end of the mission. And I'm subservient to my readers. I love advertisers. They pay the bill. But when I'm putting the magazine together, it is and should always be with real journalism. What is it that my readers need to hear? What do they want to hear? What should they hear? What furthers my mission of local food and connecting people to local food, hence community? And so we're not pay to play. And unfortunately, there's very few of us left, because most of the magazines that are around now are pay to play, which means, sure, I'll write a story on you if you advertise. And so what you end up having is just a big book of advertorials. And I don't know about you guys, but that's not what I want to read. So, I find myself, because of the fact that, real magazines are not what they used to be. And I've been in the magazine business since 1989, that I have to explain this to people. That, this is how it works. And they'll say, how do you write about what you write about? And I'll say, well, if it's something I think the readers need to know. So anyway, just to tell you that about Edible and newspapers, which are coming back and all that kind of stuff. And then also just one comment about the mal dis whatever thing. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the whole AI thing, to me, I think it's the death of the world. And especially now with the election and the AI stuff, and you can't tell if it's really Kamala or if it was really JD Vance or who it was. I just don't know how we're going to sort through this kind of stuff. I think
we'll be able to talk about that in October.
oh,
Come on back and visit us. Don't
I
forget.
would like to, because I just think, and for as much as everybody, even the people that developed the AI, are the ones that have given the siren call, like, this may not be a good thing for mankind, right? But yet, every single website you are on, you get a little pop-up box that says, would you like to use AI? We have AI tools now available. And I'm like, okay, well, anyway, it's very confusing to me. So hello, everybody. Yes, let's see. Wait, I did kind of want, when you said, thank you for loving the magazine and reading it and thinking it's inspirational, because the first thing that I believe in is that things have to be pretty, right? And especially with food. But it's interesting, if you follow our Instagram, which is Edible Nash TN, I post like all of the real food that I make all the time. And people are surprised. Like, I made a cake for my daughter's birthday last weekend and it didn't rise. And people are always surprised when, like, I have a flop or do something like that. And I'm like, that's what cooking is about. And when you do something every single day, all the time, statistically speaking, you're going to have a lot of things that don't work, right? I mean, chefs do all the time. So I love that you think it's pretty. I never try to make the food in there be unattainable. The recipes are very much things that people can make. I don't have a lot of chef recipes. When we do photos, we don't do fake stuff, which, is very much old school kind of stuff. But anyway, I had to make her birthday cake twice because I put baking powder in instead of baking soda. And it was just the stupidest thing ever. But anyway, that happens to the best of us. Okay, well, let me just tell you guys, I started Edible in 2014, and I'd been in publishing since 1989. I am by trade a dietitian, but really my soul is as a cook. So when I went to school for fine arts and realized, what am I going to do with this back in the day? My mom said, well, you love to cook, so go into nutrition. So I did. But at the time, dietitians are about science. They're not terribly creative people, or they won't back in the day. They work in hospitals and you do low sodium diets and, tube feedings and all that kind of stuff. So while I am a dietitian, I never wanted to work in a hospital. So I promptly got out of school with my degree and went and worked in a restaurant, which I did for a number of years until I went back to school and I got my master's in public health. And that I liked, because public health is dealing with the public and it's dealing with the community. So my first job was in Chattanooga with the Hamilton County Health Department. And basically they had gotten a grant for health promotion and they were like, well, just go out and educate the public. I mean, I really had no more guardrails than that. So I started, it was when we kind of discovered cholesterol, right? That, nobody knew cholesterol then. So I did cholesterol programs, and how to cook to lower your cholesterol. I did a kids weight loss program. This was back in the day also when all of the companies were trying to figure out how to lower their healthcare cost. So they were all bringing in wellness programs. So I developed health promotion programs, and I went into the Oats Factory and McKee Baking Company, and I did all these kind of classes with the employees. Anyway, I loved it. But at heart, I'm a cook, and I always wrote. So when Cooking Light, which sprung out of Southern Living, and I'm sure you guys know Southern Living, They had done a healthy recipe. And so they decided to start a magazine just showing healthy recipes. So in the day they needed dietitians, right? And they needed dietitians that knew how to cook, which was kind of an odd duck. So I was perfect for the job. So I moved to Birmingham, where the whole Southern Living Complex is, and I worked with Cooking Light magazine for the next 15 years, which was and is my calling, working in publishing and basically trying to communicate food in a fun, beautiful way to the average person, which, so then I moved to Nashville to do a different magazine. And then I started Edible in 2014, as I like to say, from my 401k. When I realized that I didn't need an investor, that I had a 401k, I was like, woohoo, I'm doing this myself. I'm not listening to anybody else. So anyway, so next year, next March, April will be 10 years. Our first issue was March, April of 2015. So I've stayed afloat for 10 years. And as you can imagine, I'm a millionaire from doing my own small business, like all small business owners are. But I love it every single day. And it's what I want to do. So the magazine comes out 6 times a year. And actually, let me go ahead and share my screen. Let me just kind of show you. Okay. So, so I'm in the share thing. Okay. Hold on. Let's see if I can. Is that where I want to be? No.
Yeah. I
Hold on.
had the same problem. You choose it and then you gotta-
Share.
Yeah, it's good to know someone else has.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to share. Okay. Can you guys see that?
We can.
It's just better to look at fun, pretty stuff than mean, and So this is our website, and it's got recipes for every season. It has stories on people. I mean, one of my goals is to shine a spotlight on small businesses, whether it's artisans, farmers, whatever it is, and also farm to table. This happens to be Sylvia of Green Door Gourmet. So we have lots of that stuff. I'll get to my events in a second, but let me just show you too. You can actually read the magazine online. And so like if you don't see, and we're around town, but we're not like the scene. We don't blanket the entire town with the magazine. Our model is that we give the magazines to our advertising partners to give out to their people. But I need to get the magazine out way more than that. So you can find us at Whole Foods, Turnip Truck, a lot of those spaces, and also our advertisers. But you don't find it as readily as you do like the scene. Are all you guys familiar with the magazine? Do you find it around town and stuff? Which is also why it's great to subscribe, because then you don't have to chase it around town and it comes to your little mailbox. But anyway, you can read the magazine online right here. And then also every single back issue that we have is online too. And this was the best way for me to show you that we come out with 60 issues a year. So we have July, August, May, June, Jan, Feb. And we did not miss an issue, I will actually say, even over COVID, when a lot of people said, just do digital, like don't print the magazine. And I'm stubborn. I was like, what are you kidding? People need it now. They're home cooking. No, I have to. So we did. We went down on the print run, but we've literally printed every issue for 10 years, 6 times a year. And it just, runs the gamut. I tried to do a wedding issue for a couple years, which was fun to do, but I don't really know that it was exactly the sweet spot. But anyway, so that is what Edible does. So we started as the magazine. Obviously, we have a website, and it is hard to keep up with, because you know how many more platforms there are now than when I started. I mean, just doing a print magazine, I can really kind of do it in my sleep. I could do, our average issue is probably 48 pages. I could do a 100-page magazine, like boom, nothing flat, because that's what I love to do. I'm an editor and a writer, and I love to create these kind of things. So that has never been my problem. But Instagram, I think, was barely started when I started. But now there are just so many things. You have your website, you have your newsletters, which gets me to events. So we started, we do farm dinners, and basically I love to recreate the wheel, everything I do. I just make my life difficult, but we go out to a different farm every time, because the idea is to bring people into a real working farm in a space that they would never have access to, right? So they're not just beautiful event spaces, but we go to a real working farm, and then we set up the table and people buy tickets, and then we have a chef, and then we partner with different local chefs each time, and then they do a farm to table meal, and then we have various partners and sponsors that are always local. A lot of alcohol. We honestly have a lot of alcohol. So for our current one, we have Dickel. We had a wine sponsor. We have a new vodka sponsor. We have music. So we just kind of basically bring the pages to life on a farm. But at the heart of the dinners, as is the heart of everything that Edible do, is I say we're a food magazine about people, because that is what food is about. It's about connection, sitting around the table, being in the kitchen, cooking with someone. And, I tell people, even if you're not a foodie or a cook, everyone has a food memory, right? I remember delivering magazines years ago, and I think it was when Emmy Squared at the Green Hills Mall was, gosh, what was the restaurant there? For a long time before it was Emmy Squared, anyway, it was something different. And so I pulled my car up, and the valet guy started to give me a hard time. And I was like, I'm just going to run in and bring the magazine. And this was, probably like a 30-year-old person. And I just gave him the magazine. He started kind of going, I don't need this. By the time I got out, he was reading every page, just like this. And, my point is that when you're talking about food, it connects with everyone. I mean, last time I went and got my oil changed, I got the chili recipe of the guy changing my oil, because he saw the magazine sitting in my seat, and I was like, oh, take one, give them to all the people. And he was like, I have a chili recipe. So it's, my world is fun because it's something that generally people want to talk about. And I love doing it. But anyway, we do 3 farm dinners a year. And I was just going to show you guys. Okay, hold on, because now that's not where. Okay. I just want to show you a video. So this is from our Instagram, and hopefully they will play. Okay. So this is so in the summer, we do a creek dinner. So we literally put the table in a creek because it's hot and you want to get your feet in the creek. And once we did it once, we had to keep doing it. Are they difficult? Yes. Do they kill me? Yes. But anyway, so here's a video of Friday night's creek dinner. Hopefully this will play. Can you guys hear the music? No. Why is it not playing? Anyway, there's lovely music to it, but you can see it, right? Okay. So this was Friday night. There's the table. There's the guests. First time somebody's brought their dog. We hang the lights. It was just.
What creek was it?
It was on Big East Fork Farm, which is kind of Leaper's Fork, Franklin. And the first creek that we were going to use, I went back like 3 weeks before the dinner, and it was bone dry. There was not, there wasn't a centimeter of water in it. So I was like, this is a problem. So we had to pivot, and they actually ended up having this other creek on the property too that turned out to be 1,000,000 times better. It has this lovely barn. But anyway, okay, so that was Friday night. Let me show you Saturday night. So there's Saturday night. So Saturday night, it rained. And, fortunately, we did have a barn, but we weren't really, there's just not much you can do. But what we did is, and it was what I learned about this is that what people really want out of our farm dinners is connection. that's what they want. They love a beautiful meal. They love the cocktails. They love driving out. They love all of that stuff, but they really are there to connect with people. And so fortunately we had a barn, so everybody huddled. The barn was not really show ready, but anyway, they huddled in the barn. And then after about a half an hour, when the rain just wasn't stopping, it was like, okay. So we had already yanked all the tables out of the creek because everything was wet. The first course was drowned. But anyway, we just scurried and we put tables in the barn, and then they set up the rest of the food buffet style, which made the chefs extremely sad. But they still got to serve it, and every single person that was in that barn said, how can I help? And this was probably 90 people. They were like, how can I help? What can I do? What can I do? Can I get you something? What can we do? Like, settle down. Don't worry. It's all good. And I didn't have one refund request. They were the happiest campers at all. So, I think I'm just kind of making the point that that's what food is about. That's what edible is about. That's what we're telling stories about. And that's what my main mission is just connecting all of these things. So maybe people stop shopping at Costco. I don't know. But anyway, so we do the events, we have our website, we have our beautiful magazine. We're all about the seasons. And it's interesting. I did a talk actually last week to the assembly up in on Mount Eagle. They have the assembly up there. And the topic was eating with the seasons, which, even though that's what I do, and I feel like it's inherent in everything we do, I don't talk about it that much. And so it was kind of interesting to start talking about it, because I realized, as a young person growing up in suburban Cincinnati, I mean, my mom was the worst cook ever. She cooked basically nothing. She was a fashion person. I didn't grow up with any kind of farm anything. She didn't even grow a tomato. So when I started at age 12 reading about Julia Child and Jacques Pepin and all this kind of stuff, I didn't quite understand why people ate lamb in the spring and why you had gourds in the fall and all this kind of stuff, until I kind of really got into food more. And now I can say I truly do eat with the seasons, because I shop at the farmers markets and I shop at the local markets, and I mean, you got to buy lemons and avocado. You have to toilet paper. Okay, you know what? I'm just realizing I can't hear anybody else talking, and I want to hear. Can I talk and hear you guys? Is that possible?
Well, usually we mute
We're
ourselves.
muted. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
I can see your expressions, but I want you to butt in when
You know what? We can all unmute, and given that I laugh uproariously, that's usually why I mute.
I love it though, actually. I'm feeling like I'm in a little vacuum, because I love things to be just super. I don't want to just drone on, which, obviously I can do for days. But, I just found myself at this talk discussing the importance of not only eating local, but eating local causes you to create a community and connection. When you go to the grocery store, who do you talk to? Hopefully no one, unless you run into your neighbor or someone in the store, right? When you go to the farmer's market, who do you talk to? You're going to talk to the farmer that you just bought the daikon radishes from, because you're going to have made a comment and he's going to make a comment, and then it's going to go, oh, how do I cook this? How do I cook this rutabaga? Or what are these? What do I do with them? And then they're going to tell you to roast them and put on. And you've already made a connection right there. And, so we all do have to go to the grocery store, but I've also been thinking a lot about Europe because of the Olympics, right? So there's been all these Paris stories on, and there's been a lot of interesting things about how Parisians eat, and how really all the restaurateurs are just kind of pissed off about the Olympics, because they think nobody else understands food and none of us have any manners and we don't eat right and all this kind of stuff. But, the Europeans, and even in other countries as well, they have a different relationship with food, because, they might shop every day or every other day, right? There's more markets. They're in a walking culture, whereas we're in a driving culture. We get in our car and, we go through the drive-through and we eat fast food and we do this and we do that. So, And food is a lot more important. They spend more of their income on food. Americans want to know how cheap it is. You know, you go through the drive-through and you order a small Coke and they'll say, well, you know, you can get the bucket of Coke for just 50 cents more. And it's like, well, I don't want to supersize it. I don't need a bucket of Coke. But we're all about value, right? And how much can we get for what little bit? And it's, you know, it's a whole thing with Americans. And now the New York Times has got this whole big series on ultra processed foods. And this would interest all of us on this call right now, those of us I can see, and how ultra processed foods they're linking. Now, obviously, we know eating all that stuff is not good for your health, right? Heart disease, obesity, all that kind of stuff. But now they're really linking it to dementia and to your brain because, you know, heart health involves your blood and your blood vessels. Well, you got blood vessels in your brain that go there. And so they're really finding that all of this processed stuff is having a detrimental impact on dementia for older people. And anyway, so I guess my point is that, you know, local food and how we eat is important and it connects us and with the world and our culture in so many more ways than just what we're putting in our mouth.
Yeah. So Jill, one of the things that I think, you know, there for me, I'm not a great cook. I'm a long distance cook. That's the description in our household, which is that because I had kids and a house and a family and, you know, a job, I basically figured out things that you could cook in one pot and then, you know, eat every other day for 4 days or 5 days. And that's, you know, that was mom. That's what mom does. And then, you know, but for me, I mean, regardless of where I always cook things that were with fresh, whatever the ingredients were fresh. So, and I always had a CSA and, you know, that kind of stuff. So that meant the kids got really tired of kale or they got really upset with squash or,
Yes.
you know, whatever it is. And then I would grow things as well. And then they'd get really upset about that unless it was exactly what they liked. And then they would eat it before it ever got to the table and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's been part of me and for a long time when it comes to the food. And I think that's something that is coming back. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sorry, part of you used to.
it's coming back.
Yeah.
There are people, and in particular, people, when we moved here, I moved here 20 years ago. There was already such a group, such folk here, but now it's expanding. I believe it's expanding. And the thing that I realized is that to keep it here, we also have to keep things like our local producers here. So our local farms, which is why I adore the farm to table events that you have and others have, but also regulations and zoning that, you know, the League of Women Voters, or things like the wetlands legislation that we were concerned about last year because the ability to ensure that our wetlands are protected helps our farmland. It helps our farmers as well. Also, ensuring that the kind of farming that we have, the way that we zone it, the way that we regulate it, the kind of not, and that's therefore also the kind of food that is available. So that's one of the reasons I so adore your place in this ecosystem because it is this beautiful, I am just going to say, still, even when you mess up, your stuff looks lots better than mine. It just looks great. I mean, and particularly because it's chocolate, probably. I mean, you know, but you know what it means to take the photo, even if the photo is of something that isn't perfect. And you know, I mean, it's a joy every other month to look at this.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to quote you in the reader comments this time. Well, you know, one of the things, thank you. And one of the things that I say to people, it doesn't really matter how old the person is. They all will say, when I give them a magazine, oh, I love a magazine. They could be 18, you know, and they're like, oh my God, I love an old-fashioned magazine. I love print. I love this. I love reading it. And one of the reasons that is, you know, like probably 15 years ago when all the digital stuff came around and we all just ran around like chickens with our head cut off, and the newspapers closed and the magazines have shut down and all this. You know, it's like everything, the pendulum swings back, right? And I think we've figured out how print can coexist with digital, right? They're different things, and there's different ways of using them, and there's different times you use them. And what I tell people is, yeah, a magazine, other than being beautiful, yay, is it's relaxing because I'm in charge. When you're sitting there and you're turning the page, you're not in charge. You're not clicking off of it. There isn't an ad popping up. You're turning the page, and then there it is. We are telling you what you need to be reading, whether you like it or not. You can turn the page again. And it's just a whole different thing than this, you know. And people get tired of that. You know, they don't, I don't really want to read a book on my phone. I mean, I have books on my phone, but I still would rather read it in a book. So, you know, yes, I think that as far as the medium goes, you're going to see more magazines coming back. Now, unfortunately, the national magazine world, I actually just got Vanity Fair, which I hadn't read in a million years. Okay, I am not their reader anymore because I went, okay, either that or my expectations for a real magazine are just way too high. The paper's crappy. The ads rule, you know, the advertisements are all in the best spots. They just kind of like glue some editorial in there. I was like, okay, no more. Anyway, so I try to uphold what real magazines were and what they used to be, but mainly, you know, for that reason too, because it's a great way to get, you know, our message out. But you know, and I do want to mention this too, is that I've thought a lot about this since I'm a public healther. I've never wanted to be a lead because it is expensive going to the farmer's market. You know, one of our farm to table dinner tickets cost $200. You know, I mean, living that way, you know, going to Whole Foods, it takes more and it costs more than it does to shop at certain places or not shop local, not eat local, go to fast food places. So I really make an effort to try to not feel elitist and to feel really accessible. Because the fact of the matter is, the farming landscape and the agribusiness landscape is not going to change until we get a groundswell of people doing it, right? You know, I mean, movements start with a few people, which is, you know, what we're doing, the whole local food movement. But you got to make it accessible to other people to where it's easier to kind of live this kind of lifestyle. And it's easier for small farmers to be able to support themselves, you know, and artisans to be able to support themselves too. So that's kind of like a continual, you know, battle that we have. But I think there is a lot of great local stuff. And Nashville is a great place, Tennessee in general. We've got more farmers markets and more local food stuff going on. So it's really awesome. I mean, you can literally go to a farmer's market every single day of the week. So they're not hard to find at all. But yes, let's see. What else? What else? What do you guys have? What do you?
Anybody, you should go ahead, and if you have any questions, I think it's time. Jill is basically ready for your questions.
I did just do on our Instagram how to hard boiled eggs.
You might want to stop sharing your screen so that we can all look at each other.
Yes, let me do that. Yes, perfect. Okay. Hold on. Oh, I got that on top of the thing. Whoops. Hold on. Oh, I have to get. Okay. Okay, stop share. Here we go. It's unstable. Okay. You guys are all on mute.
So Jill, in the chat,
Can you hear me?
we have a question. What was
Okay.
the most memorable story that you featured in one of your magazines? You have anything that just resonates still with you?
I have a couple favorite stories, and I think this one illustrates on stuff, but I'm way over the chef worship days, like, and we cover local restaurants, but my reason to exist is not to cover restaurants. Like, I leave that to Eater Nashville and Thrillist and all of those kind of places, right? But years ago, probably like in 2016 or 17, Sal was the chef at the fancy restaurant that STK, where STK is now, down in the Gulch, had the big fancy chandelier. I can't remember the name of it. So anyway, we were in there. I can't even remember what for, but we were in there, and I didn't really know what the story was going to be. I don't even remember I was in there, but I was just talking to Sal, and he was hungover. And so he was talking, and he was eating, some Mexican food. And I said, well, what's happening here? And he said, oh, I'm really hungover. And he said, whenever I am, I get, mama over here, to make some Mexican food. So all of the people that were working in the kitchen, there was this Mexican woman who was kind of the mama of the kitchen. And she was just back there cooking diligently, like they all were. And I thought, that's my story. I don't want to do a story on a fancy steakhouse place. I mean, that's my story. So that's the story that I did. And I'll send you guys the link to it. So I have a big photo of the crew, all the cooks, and Sal and her, and the Mexican food that she cooks for them for breakfast when they come in there hungover, and how they love to sit down at a table and make it messy. Because Sal said, oh, I love it when the tablecloths are messy. That means people enjoyed the food, kind of thing. That to date is still one of my favorite. Like, that's my approach to doing a story on a restaurant. And that was one of them. I do a lot of stories on a lot of gardeners. Miss Pearl is another one of my favorite stories. It was called The Indomitable Miss Pearl. She started a community garden technically in Bordeaux, and basically raised most of the kids in the neighborhood. And she is just this colorful Black woman that is amazing, and has this community garden and does all of this stuff and grows all this food. And to me, she's an inspiration, and I love stories like that. So I do a lot of stories like that of people that are making changes in their communities and social change too, because, people are attracted by food, kids especially, I mean, they love seeing something grow out of the garden. I mean, it's a way to kind of get their attention and engage them, and maybe keep them off of the streets or doing whatever it is, that they're doing. So that would probably be it. Let's see. How do you get invited to a dinner? Well, you can buy a ticket online. But I will tell you, we have, and this is another part of what we do, we have volunteers. Really, our dinners are put on by our partners and volunteers. There are so many, and they're not all young people. I use young people as an example because we have a lot of young people that moved to Nashville and are trying to find their community. It's hard. I mean, everybody works remotely. It's hard to meet people. And so if they're edible fans, they can volunteer at a farm dinner, and they'll come and help set the table and help serve or do whatever it is they want to do. And they meet like-minded people. We also have people that help distribute the magazine. They're called our street team. And that's a really big part of the farm dinners, is that they are community. I don't pay an expensive, fussy staff that comes in and does everything, right? They're just kind of built from scratch. And so you can volunteer at a farm dinner, or you can buy tickets to a farm dinner. But volunteering is a fun thing to do. And we have a lot of volunteers that come back every time. And I love our volunteers.
Yeah.
嗯 ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， ， Let's see. Yeah.
Well, I will say that for me, trying to figure out the ways in, the multiple ways in to local food is super important. And Edible Nashville is just like a really amazing resource that you don't get. I mean, not, and then many other places there can be a thriving local food movement, but I think Edible Nashville is an unusual part of our local food movement. And I actually think, or community, I mean, it's the community,
Yeah.
but also a movement. And I think it's very cool that, well, first of all, you're very cool. And second of all, that the fact that it exists is very cool. And I actually think, trying to figure out how to not only, I mean, part of me feels that this is this kind of clearly I'm a local foodie. I'm not a foodie. I'm no good at being a foodie, but I'm a local food person and a
Mhm.
local producer person, and I'm a kind of a nerd person, and I don't like trash, and I like, having, good air and water and things like that. And I think the mix of having food that isn't just trucked in from wherever and or whatever it is that's being done is super important. So that's why I am so involved and so interested in every component of it and making every component be however one gets in. So if you have $200 to sit around, great. If you don't, you have like time to spend and basically be the person who feeds, who serves. If you have for one of the things that I realize is I have there are CSAs, and CSAs can only go so far for somebody who is a farmer. I mean, there's farmers markets with one-off, then CSAs, which give them some amount of continuous income. But then there's also, it isn't really big here, but it could be bigger. And that is our community fridge. We have a couple of community fridges, and you can buy a CSA for the community fridge. So instead of just taking food to the community fridge, basically what you can do is have farmers every, once a week or twice a week, bring a full CSA to a community fridge. And those are in some of the most needy areas of our city, over on Buchanan Street and a number of others. And I think those are just great. First of all, I love the way the fridges look. People paint them in ways that are just fantastic. And
Yeah.
also, if you take stuff to community fridges, you get to meet people. Yeah, sometimes they're unusual people, but they're almost always wonderful.
Yeah.
Nobody treats you badly because you're bringing them food.
Yeah. No, well, it's like the little libraries that exist
Yes,
everywhere. Now, obviously, when you have to have refrigeration, it's a different
yes,
kind of thing.
yes.
But I actually live in Murfreesboro,
Ah,
live off of the square, and there is a little,
yeah, she's in Murfreesboro because
obviously
it's
not for, but, I mean, I know. And the thing is, too, is that, you know, food is politics, you
yeah,
know, climate change is food, is politics, all of these things, land, it's all really kind of becomes political. And it's really a part of so much more than just what it is that you're eating. We're actually trying to do a story on the whole food deserts thing, and this phrase that my friend Jerome, who's a social activist, used as food applied, which CJ at the Nashville Food Project, he's done a great interview on this, and it's called food apartheid. And so I was trying to wrangle this for this issue, and I was like, yeah, I need to give this some time and probably do it the next issue. But we also try to tackle things like that and be part of like positive change when it comes for all of these things, because certainly access to food it's a huge thing.
right. Yeah.
So I try not to sit in the ivory tower and be eating fancy pants food, which is not really me anyway. But I try to kind of hit all of those things in the magazine. So I guess that's kind of what keeps it fun.
Well, this has been lovely. Are there anybody else have any last things that they'd like to ask or say or add? Again, the fall harvest is coming up, and it is,
Yeah.
yes, I love, and it's a little pagan. Maybe there's a part of me I'm from Wisconsin. So,
I love Jesus.
very, very, very German Lutheran, but, farmers all have a little bit of pagan in them because they can't help it. Because, no matter what, you think
Yep.
someone's looking over you, but in fact, it's, water and hail and snow and floods and, tornadoes and pests and, I guess all in the Bible, but needless to
Yep.
say, all extant. So, but I love fall festivals.
Oh my gosh. We're working on our September, October issue, and really it is my funnest issue because summer and fall collide. So you literally have everything in abundance. You still have tomatoes, but you have apples. And it's the best. It's the best season ever. And we try to do a lot of promoting local events, as well. Like we have an events listing on the website. And I'm really after things that you're not just going to find like on the scenes thing. Like I don't need to be promoting concerts and, things like that. Like there's plenty of other people doing that. So we try to promote a lot of the farm to table dinner things, the food festivals, some of the really interesting pop-ups and all that kind of stuff that happens. So it,
Fantastic.
keeps me on my toes in Nashville. That's for doggone sure. Oof. So,
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
It was fantastic. It was great. And I'm not sure Melissa, do you have control over like stopping?
No, I
I
didn't
can
get
stop
what
the
was-
recording.
Yeah.